Hello there, Namaste. My name is Jain and I'm here with another episode of Jam with Jimmy series. Today we want to talk about a very interesting topic, which is why I do what I do. Which means, why is it people behave in the manner they behave? For example, you pick up any situation, you will realize some of us are really very passionately having a conversation. We are very animated sometimes. Sometimes you will realize people are wearing egos on their sleeves. Sometimes you will realize people are very quiet. Sometimes you will realize people are talking a lot about data, facts, figures. So where are these behaviors coming from? Why people do what they do? That is something which we are going to unlock today. To help you understand this theory, we will use conventional methodology of using a whiteboard. Now what this entire theory postulates, that's the theory of human emotions as given by Dr. Marston. What it says is, in any given scenario, you, I, any human being for that matter, we make two choices simultaneously. One, either we are actively involved in an event or we are passive about it. And second, either we are very friendly or we are not friendly in that situation. So let's try and plot this on this whiteboard. On one side, I'm going to write as being active, and on the other hand, I will write as being passive. I'll draw another line, as I said earlier, to draw friendly or not friendly behaviors. So on the top, I will write as not friendly. I wrote an FR for friendly. I hope that's alright with you. And friendly over here. And let's try and understand what is the behavior which will get plotted into these four behaviors. Let's take a very simple example. Let's think that you are driving from your home to office, or for that matter anywhere, and as you drive, one of the cab drivers took a wrong turn, so much so that you had to literally stand on the brake, otherwise there would have been a collision. Now what could be your behavioral response here? There are some people, probably at the next signal, or probably they will overtake the cab driver, maybe they'll force him to stop, or maybe they will start yelling at him, or maybe they will probably get into some kind of a scuffle over there. Now, in this scenario, I'm actively involved in the event and I'm also not friendly. So I'm in this quadrant. Now, what kind of behavior I'm projecting at that point of time? I'm trying to tell the others that I can control the situation, I can show my power, or maybe I may also want to dominate the other person. Now, this is one scenario. Second scenario, I did not shout at the cab driver, I did not get into an argument with the cab driver, but instead of that, as he stopped, I also stopped. I started talking to him. This is not the way to drive, you should have driven carefully, you could have got hurt, I could have got hurt, there are people waiting for you, there are people waiting for me, so on and so forth. Which means what? I'm active, but I'm friendly. So what am I trying to do? I'm trying to influence the action of the other person. Or I'm trying to show I'm going to express my feelings, my emotions in that scenario. That is option number 2. Option number 3, you also stopped, the cabbie also stopped at the signal. After some time, the signal turned green, you went your way and the cabbie went his way. While you're friendly, because there is no confrontation, and you're passive, you're not even engaging with the cab driver at all. Now, what kind of behavior is this? This is called being amiable. The fourth scenario, the very next traffic cop you saw, you straight away walk up to him and tell him, please challan this cab driver, he is not driving well. You're passive because you're not engaging with the cab driver at all. You're not friendly because you're complaining. Now what kind of behavior is this? You're quickly analyzing what is right, what is wrong. So which is also called as compliance. You're looking at what should be and what should not be. You're quickly analyzing as well. So this is also called some sort of analytical behavior. Now what does this theory say? The theory says we have all the 4 in us, but one of them is more than all the other 3 put together. Now what does that mean? Let's take a very simple example. I will say 1, 2, 3 and we all will clap together. Say 1, 2, 3. Now, when you clapped, did you plan that my right hand will go into the left hand or left will go into the right or it will be straight? I don't think so. But the job is done well. You don't have to think about it. Similarly, one of these four becomes a predominant style. What is also called as autobiographical response. What is also called as predominant response. We don't realize, but we start behaving in that fashion. One more than all the other three. Remember, I'm saying that again. One behavior is more than all the other three put together, even though we have all the four in us. And let's take a deep dive into all these four behaviors to understand why people do what they do. Now let's understand why these four behaviors are the way they are, which means what is the behavioral anchor? What is the innate need these four styles may have? Now if you look at people in this quadrant, which is not friendly and active, the behavioral anchor here is I am right. All their actions emanate from that fact that I am right. In case if you check with them, why is it you want me to do this? What is the reason? They will say, because I am telling you to do so. So their behavioral anchor is I am right. Similarly, people who are here, people who are active and who are friendly, their behavioral anchor is like me. They always want to be the good books of everyone. And in the process, they end up pleasing everybody. Sometimes they may be perceived as a people pleaser. People who are amiable, their behavioral anchor is accept me. This is the way I am. They're very calm, very quiet, and we'll go into the detailing of it in a bit. But they operate from this is the way I am. People who are compliant and analytical, people who are detail oriented, their behavioral anchor is doing things right. They don't want anyone to come to them and tell them that look, what you have done is not right. Now let's take a deep dive into behaviors one by one. Now there is a terminology which I would want you to become familiar with. People who are not friendly and active, people who are power oriented, control oriented, they want to dominate others, the behavioral anchor is I am right. They're also called as driver. So let's understand drivers in a little more detail. Now who are drivers? These drivers are people who drive things, people who make things happen. Now these people are highly goal focused. For them, achievement of the objectives of paramount importance. All the other things are secondary. They're very fast paced. They would not waste their time into pleasantries, or they would not waste their time on focusing on anything else other than work. For them, let's straight away talk about the point. So when they communicate with people, they're highly business-like. They talk off the work and on the work. Now these people, since they operate from I am right, may be perceived as people who have high ego. Now please understand, drivers don't know they have a high ego, but this is the environment around them which may end up perceiving them as high on ego. Why so? Because they always want to drive their point of view. In extreme case scenario, people may say a driver is arrogant, is rude, is insensitive. However, please understand, I'm again repeating, driver is not aware that's the way he or she is, but that's the way they are. Now, these people, when I say they are highly goal focused, for them, achievement of objectives is extremely critical, it's of paramount importance. They would want to focus primarily on that, and in the process, they don't mind sacrificing any other personal work which they may have, because for them, the achievement of this task is important. Now, who are the people who are here? People who are active and who are friendly, people who are, operating from like me. They want to express their feelings, their emotions, they are influencing kind of a person. These people, the terminology which I would want to get familiar for them is expressive. Now, what kind of people expressive people are? They are highly people oriented. Now, what does that mean? They would love to socialize with you. For example, you walk up to them and say, hey Jimmy, let's finish this task. Hey, come on, let's sit here. Let's have a cup of coffee first. How are you doing? how are things at home, how are things in your life, so on and so forth. They love to socialize before they talk about work. And since their behavioral anchor is like me, they would want to be in the good books of everybody. Now what does that mean? They would talk about people. They will ensure that they go down to their level when they are talking to them. Now, as a result, when people are observing, they may perceive them to be little diplomatic because they are ensuring that they are pleasing everybody. But please understand, an expressive is not aware he's like that because he just wants to be the good books of everybody. Now, expressive people are very restless. They always want to do new things. They want novelty. They love exploring things. They hate doing same things again and again. Monotonous things makes them complacent. It takes away their energy. But whenever there is any new thing, well, it really excites them. For them, it's people, then work. That's how they are. Now let's talk about amiable. Now amiable are also called amiable, so you can use the same term for them. Now who are amiable people? Amiable people are very calm, very quiet. They will focus primarily on their work. They will not bother others. Now as a result of that, people may feel there's an invisible wall around them. Now when you're interacting with an amiable kind of person, please understand, please ensure you use a very simple technique called why. When you communicate with them, use why is it so, why do you do that, why do you say so, so on and so forth. The more and more whys you will use with an amiable, more they will speak, lesser and lesser that wall would become. Now, amiable, they look for job security. They don't mind doing monotonous work. They're very dependable, as I said. Give them a task, you don't have to follow up. The task will continue to happen on its own. But what they look for? Job security. Now let's look at people who are compliance, analytical. What are these people? They are called as analytical. So I'm just highlighting the 4 behaviors. Now who are analytical people? Remember, they operate from doing things right. Which means they are data driven, facts, figures. Give them a sheet of paper. They will just tell you this is not right, this is not right. They have an eye for detail. They don't look for an answer, but what do they look for? They look for the best answer, which means in their pursuit to make things happen right, they may want to do that task again. Well, there's nothing wrong in it, but if deadlines are stringent, one must ensure that an analytical person is informed of the deadlines because there's a very high probability that he or she may end up missing the deadlines. Now, for them, it's all about the laid down rules. They will never ever break any rules. They will operate in the diameter or the dimensions or the operating area. For example, you might have come across this phrase wherein a colleague of yours have said, well, Jimmy, you're my friend, but I'm sorry, this is a policy. Please understand, you're talking to an analytical person. And since they want to make things right, sometimes people may perceive them as a little slow. Remember, an analytical feels it is better to make a right decision slowly than to make a wrong one quickly. Now these behaviors are so strong that whatever I do in office or in my professional world, same things I do probably in my personal world. Which means what? I don't walk into an office and say, okay fine, I'm going to wear this behavioral blanket. Or I don't step out of the office and I say, I'm going to take this behavioral blanket off. So let's take some examples from our personal life, then we'll also talk about my professional world. I also want you to become behavioral with the terminologies driver, expressive, amiable and analytical. I'm going to use more often about these personalities. Now let's look at how these 4 personalities will go and walk into a marketplace and do some transactions with, let's say, a vegetable vendor. What would a driver do? And I'm talking about a typical vegetable vendor. I'm not talking about a supermarket. I'm not talking about online orders, what we do these days. We'll also talk about that a little later. A driver checks with the vegetable vendor, how are the vegetables? Let's say he says 60 rupees a kg, let's say it's potatoes. Now he will say, oh my god, 60 rupees? Probably you are the ones who are jacking up the price. You are the one responsible for so high inflation, so on and so forth. Okay, give me 1 kg. Now, with these 2-3 statements, a driver has shown his power, control. I can say anything to you. What would an expressive do? Expressive will check with him, probably with a smile, and say, hey, hi, how are you doing? How are the potatoes? Let's say he said 60 rupees kg. My God, they become so costly. Who else is there in your family? Where are you from? So on and so forth. And that is how generally expressive communicates. Amiable will quietly go pick up the potatoes and go home before you could realize. Analytical, they will first look at which quality. They will first look at which quality is a better quality of potatoes. And then when they are, let's say, checking the weighing scale, is the weighing scale proper or not? And they will also, if they are paying cash, they will see to it exact change is given to them. Remember, none of us is making an effort. It's like the clap. Remember the clap? It's happening in a jiffy. Let's take some more examples. Let us say I walk into a building and I have to take an elevator, let's say, to 6th floor. Now remember, I'm talking about example of an elevator where you have to press the floor. These days, there are elevators where you just press the floor and they will tell you which elevator to go. So you walk into the elevator, what would a driver do? Presses 6th floor, and after that, door closure button. I have to reach my objective. I have to reach my destination first. In an extreme case scenario, you will also find a driver pressing this 6th floor again and again, as if the lift will go faster. What would an expressive do? Presses the 6th floor, suddenly at the end of the corridor, could see a colleague of theirs. They will hold the lift and they will call their colleague. The colleague will come, hey, hi, good morning, how are you doing, so on and so forth. And then life moves on. That's how an expressive would be. Amiable are very indecisive. They always need somebody's support to make a decision. So let us say if I'm an amiable person and I'm standing and I'm wondering, shall I take this lift, shall I take this lift, shall I take this lift, shall I take this lift? Now there's a colleague of mine which forced me, hey Jimmy, move man. He forced me mentally to make a decision. I move forward. Life is good. If let's say there is no colleague of mine who is telling me to push or to make a decision, by the time I decide, both the lifts are gone. Analytical is very, very interesting. They're very, very unemotional. They're primarily looking at data, facts, figures. The moment they step in, the first thing they will see in the elevator is the capacity. Let's say the capacity is 6 people. They are the 6th one. Life is good. If let's say capacity is 6, they are the 7th one. They look at the capacity and they say, oh, I'm sorry, I'll make it overweight, and they will automatically step out. If they are inside and somebody walks in who's going to make it overweight in terms of the number of people, they will straight away say, sir, ma'am, can you come to the next one please? We'll make it overweight. It's beyond the capacity. And again I'm repeating, none of these people are making an effort. It's happening like a jiffy. Let's take some more examples. How about reading a newspaper? While I understand a lot of us use InShots or digital newspaper these days, but I'm talking about a typical traditional newspaper. What do you think a driver would read? Headlines. First page, top left corner, the last page, bottom right corner will skim the newspaper. And if there is anything of interest, probably they will dig deep, probably they will read the news again, or maybe they will read the news in detail, but if it is not, life is good, newspaper is done. What would an influencing people do? Influencing people, they love to boast, they want to tell others, what they know. They want to show off, so to say. So the first thing what they will read in the newspaper is the events happening in the city, events happening in the local area. So that when they meet people, they can say, you know what, this is happening there, so on and so forth. Second thing what they will read is an obituary column. Since they are very, very social, is it that I have to go somewhere and pay my last respects? And after that, they'll probably read sports, politics, depending on what their preference is. Amiable invariably carries a newspaper. Let us say I'm an amiable, I'm carrying a newspaper. Let's say my colleague walks up and says, Jimmy, newspaper. Whether I have read it or not, sir, ma'am. So I will ensure that their need is taken care of. An amiable ensures others' needs come first compared to their needs. What about analytical? Have you come across a situation where in the newspaper you have seen correction? There's a small 3 or 4 liner mention that the news in so and so date was published and there was a problem in this. Now this is the corrective. This is the correction. Or you might have seen the heading like corrigendum, right? Or correction. People responsible for that are always analytical. Let's say analytical will do, they looked at a small error in the newspaper, they called up the newspaper Hello, hi, is that the editorial desk of the newspaper? It could be any newspaper for that matter. Yes, it's the editorial desk. Have you seen today's newspaper? Page 11, column 6, line 3, the spellings are wrong. I know a lot of people who still cut the cutting of the news, scans it and send an email to the newspaper because that's not right. Remember, they're already doing things right. They also want to happen that, they also want world also to happen in a right manner. Now remember, these four behavioral anchors are also their point of view or their world view. They also want the world to work like that. Now this is very, very important for us to understand. While these are behavioral anchors for all these four styles, it becomes their world view. Since this becomes their world view, they also expect the world to behave or act in the manner their point of view or their world view is. Let's take one or two more examples. Let us say you walked into a cubicle, or let's say an office of a colleague of yours, but the person is not there. The way the decor is, can you figure out who this person could be? To a very large extent, yes. Let me give you an example. You walk into one cubicle, everything is neat and clean, spick and span. On the pin-up board there are some certificates, some medals, and on sides some trophies are also kept. Now who do you think this person could be? Well, no guesses. It's a driver, because for them this is achievement. And achievement, I want to show off my achievement. This is who I am. Right, that's a driver. You go to the next cubicle and a lot of things are scattered. On the pin-up board with the senior management, there's a picture and maybe one of the CEOs or there's a picture with the senior management and maybe one of the senior folks have actually put his hand on my shoulder. And that picture is a little blown up and put up on the pin-up board. Maybe a saying of a person or an individual who I follow. For example, it could be Mahatma Gandhi or Rabindranath Tagore or anybody else. That saying is also pinned up there. Right? Please remember, they are expressive. They want to show off. They want to tell others, you know what? I know people. Now remember, they may also end up, using names, saying names, whether they know them or not, but they will project us as if they know them very, very well. For amiable, the cubicle is generally clean and it's very, very organized. There may be a possibility they may have a family picture, maybe in that corner, maybe the god he or she believes in, a saying about the god or a picture of the god will also maybe kept there. Analytical, you walk into the cubicle, everything's neat and clean, spick and span. On the pin-up board, there's a YTD, there's an MTD, and the complete project status is there. Well, that is how they are. Right? Now, some of you are wondering as you're watching this video, this could be situational. Well, I hate to break this at you, but there's nothing called situational. We remain who we are, but we only learn to manage our intensity. Now, what do you mean by that? Remember the clap exercise? Let's do this again. And this time, I'm going to clap with a lot of intensity. Let's say at the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. I will again repeat this, but this time at a very low intensity. Again at the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Now, did I change the process of how to clap? Well, the answer is no. I did not change the process. What did I change? Intensity. Which means we remain who we are depending on the person we deal with. Especially in an organization, whenever there is a hierarchy which comes into the play. The person we are dealing with, we learn to manage our intensity. For example, some of you who are watching this video may think, at office I'm a big driver, but back at home I'm a big amiable. Well, that's not the case. The only thing is, you learn to manage your intensity better at home. But one fine time, or one fine day, there comes an instance or an event where boom! And then you say, how long will I tolerate? Yes? Now, some of you are also wondering which one of them is good so that you can aspire to become that person. Well, do a small exercise. Take a pen, pencil and paper and give me a nice autograph. You know the way the celebrities write, stay safe, stay blessed, love, so on and so forth, whatever. Just do a nice autograph. Done? Now, whatever your dominant hand is, whatever your predominant hand is, for example, I'm a right-handed, I will transfer my pen to the left hand. People who are lefties transfer the pen to the right hand and repeat the process. Give me the autographs again. Is it easy? Is it difficult? Well, it goes without saying, of course it is difficult. But my question to you is writing with the right hand is right or is writing with the left hand is right? Oh, what a ridiculous question this is, isn't it? It's just a preference, isn't it? Whether I write with right, whether I write with left. Similarly, all the four are preferences. None of them is right, none of them is wrong. Yeah? And I will also tell you how do you deal with these four styles. Now you've understood the four styles. Please understand how they communicate as well. A driver tends to speak very fast. As I said earlier, they're highly goal-focused, business-oriented, they will talk to the point. Neither here nor there. So they will talk less, but whatever they will talk primarily on work. Expressive, on the other hand, will be very, very generous with words. They will talk about any and every topic under the sun. They have opinion on everything. It's very difficult for them to stay quiet. They love to talk. And they are very talkative. That's how they are. Amiable will talk only when required. Very rarely they will take the initiative. But they are the ones who keep on absorbing things. Analytical primarily churns out data, facts, figures, in the way they are talking as well. Once you know who is what kind of a behavior, my recommendation is you need to learn to manage your communication with them, manage your behavior with them so that the learning curves become shorter and the life becomes better. For example, if you know somebody is a driver, what you should do? Well, never ever interrupt them. Because the moment they will interrupt them, they will see it is a direct challenge to their authority. And they will engage with you till such time you will say, I think what you're saying is right. Because their ego is taken care of. Remember, they carry the ego on their sleeves. And they will call spade a spade, whether you like it or not. They'll be blunt sometimes. They will tell you directly on your face. Like it or not, that's your problem, not theirs. That's what they believe. So when you know somebody is a driver, allow them to finish. Let them finish talking, then only you speak. Probably, you also want to tell them that I have a better method than what you are suggesting. So do not interrupt them. Do not say, I think what you're saying is wrong, this is the right way. Instead of that, use a word called what. So once they have finished talking, you'll say, look, if this is the challenge, this is one option, this is second option, this is third option, what do you think we should do? They'll say, okay, let's do this. You are in a way ensuring that they are with you. Now, if you're a driver, you must also learn that not every time things will go the way you intend them to be. So you should also learn to be a little more tolerant of the way others are. Remember, the bottom line is people are different, they are not difficult. Expressive. Since they love to talk, if you know somebody is an expressive, leave some time for socializing. They will love to talk about you, your family, your life, so to say. So leave some time for socializing. And in an extreme case scenario, if you feel that they are hogging too much of your time, tell them you have an urgent call or an urgent work which is pending. They'll say, it's alright, you can come again later. We'll talk later, so on and so forth. That is how they are. Now, what you should never do with an expressive, never tell them it's a policy. Their belief is policy is also made by you and me. Do not legislate with them. They will immediately snap back because their belief is policy is also made by you and me. And policy is there to ensure that we move forward, not to impede our progress. When you deal with an amiable, remember, if you end up pressurizing them, they will go into a cocoon. In any case, they don't talk much. So start with a personal note, hello, hi, how are you doing? And that's where you talk about whatever you have to talk about. If you are an amiable, remember that you should not wait for the others to ask for your opinion. You should also express your opinion. Because you might have observed something which others did not. And if you do not share, if you do not express, there's a possibility that people around you, your colleagues or your family members, they may get deprived of an observation which you had, which everybody could get benefit of. Analytical, as I said, they love data, facts, figures, numbers. So if you're dealing with an analytical, get your facts right. Do your homework. Because in case if you don't, they have done it and you will end up losing your face. And if you are analytical, please understand that not every time things are in black and white. There are some gray areas as well. Start to appreciate the what if scenarios. And once you understand that, as I said earlier, the bottom line for this is people are different. We are not difficult. We are just differently programmed. Imagine if all of us were drivers, what will happen? We'll only end up fighting to prove I am right. If all of us were expressive, what will happen? We'll only talk, no real execution. If all of us were amiable, we'll wait, tell us what to do, we'll make it happen, but tell us what to do. And if all of us were analytical, analysis, makes it paralysis. Which means all four are good, all four carry their style consequences. We need all four in our society, we need all four in our organization, we also need all four in our teams so that things can move forward. Now, another side note I want to give here is the usage of WIDWID inventory goes beyond just communicating with each other, just understanding each other. If you look at this line, which differentiates these two roles and that two roles, primarily driver and expressive are front-ending roles. Analytical and amiable are support functions. So when I say support functions, which means they are the ones, when required, they'll only come to the front. Otherwise, they will ensure that they lead from behind. A driver and expressive would love to lead from the front. Remember, all four are leading, but these two roles would love to lead from behind, these two roles would love to lead from the front. Another important part, let us say any new department, any new division, any new greenfield project, any new branch is to be opened by any of the businesses. The responsibility is primarily given to a driver because they will go, they will drive things, they will make things happen. If there is a one-to-many communication, PR, if you have to influence people, it's expressive job. Second in command to the HOD, second in command to the head of the organization, primarily is amiable. Why so? Strategy can be made by anybody. But who is the one who will execute the strategy? Amiable. Untiringly, they will execute. Wherever there is a precision engineering, accounts, finance, you will see people who are best suited are analytical. But remember, these are thumb rules. There are always exceptions. So I hope this video will help you to understand people better. Do mention in your comments if you have any queries or what was your experience of understanding your own behavior as well as the behavior of others. And before I close, remember, people are just different. They are not difficult. Thank you. Namaste. See you soon.